right, folks. This is the time of the year that every fan of basketball really looks forward to. As you know what? The regular season ends with a flourish for the colleges, plus the high schools are really kicking it into gear, getting ready for the state tournament. And first, let's talk about the colleges, as the ACC is heading into their final week before the tournament next week. And Syracuse is actually ending it with a flourish. Yes, Syracuse has won its last 4 games, including a pretty gutsy win against Louisville last week, and a pretty good win to end their home regular season. And I mean, you know what? Syracuse is kind of making a little bit of a thing for the NCAA tournament committee. We're 20-10. And it's pretty good to reach the 20-win plateau, because it definitely makes the NCAA take notice, especially when you're in a conference like the ACC. Syracuse is pretty much maybe heading towards the bubble. And I mean, Joe Lunardi, who is one of the best ones for kind of doing bracketology, seeing what team can get in because of their rankings, because of their quad wins, and everything, predicts the Orange are being considered, meaning they're on the bubble but pretty much heading to the NIT. Well, they can change that starting tonight, especially with their regular season finale against Joe Girard and Clemson. Of course, Syracuse is 1-6 on Clemson's home court, so it hasn't exactly been a nice one. It's been a house of horrors at times for Syracuse, playing on Clemson's home court. Well, I mean, they could help change that if they can beat Clemson. And I mean, Clemson's real tough. We'll see. And I mean, it also could determine the seeding. Right now, Syracuse is considered the 4th seed in the ACC tournament, meaning they would have a double bye, meaning after tonight, if they win, they would have to wait until next Thursday to play. That's a pretty decent layoff, and you gotta wonder about sharpness with a layoff like that. But I mean, heck, a double bye sometimes can be a blessing, but a lot of times it can act as, you know, a curse. And I mean, right now you gotta wonder, is Syracuse going to be focused if they beat Clemson? Because, you know, a long layoff, Syracuse might lose focus. They might lose their eyes on the prize. They can't really do that, especially with a potential berth to the NCAA tournament on the line. Right now, the NIT is beckoning, but we can change that. SU is closing with a flourish. Let's see if they can continue. Keep it going, Red. And by the way, happy belated birthday, Mr. Autry. Now we go from one team that's closed with a flourish to a team that closed with a flourish and won a championship. The Mynderse boys are the sole survivor of all the teams so far right now around the area. And right now, the Mynderse boys are getting ready to play Avon for the right to be in the state tournament. And I mean, what a big win against Hornell. I mean, part of me thought Hornell was pretty much, you know, a shoo-in maybe to win the title. But it kind of showed that, hey, Hornell didn't face competition like they did with Mynderse. Mynderse was ready to take down Hornell. And I mean, you know what? Maybe Hornell didn't eat so much maple syrup. Maybe they didn't eat so much chili. But sometimes they eat the chili, and you know what? They would tear them up something bad. That's what I think happened with Hornell. Mynderse was definitely on its game. And even though Hornell closed, Mynderse survived and advanced, as Jim Valvano would say. And now it's Avon who they play for the right to play in the state tournament. And you gotta wonder about Avon. Mynderse might hope that the Avon boys didn't drink so much root beer or eat so much hamburgers at Tom Wall's. Or with Avon, whether there's going to be a cosmetic change with the Avon boys. But who knows? I mean, heck, Mynderse can win and they would play the Section 6 champions. I mean, it would be really cool for the Mynderse boys to keep pressing on, go into the state tournament, and maybe wreak havoc in the state tournament. Keep it going, Blue Devils. I mean, heck, it was the first championship that has been brought back to the Baker Gymnasium in about 7 years. And we had close calls for a couple of years, especially against North Star, where we were definitely robbed. But you know what? Mynderse sometimes takes a year to reload, especially if they lose some talent. But they gel pretty quickly. They come back, and they win championships. It's spreading the water around here. Mynderse boys are ready. Let's see them make the state tournament and hopefully do some damage. Congratulations, Mynderse boys, on another banner that'll be hung in the Baker Gymnasium. And also, congrats to the Mynderse girls. Decent run, but I mean, heck, Dansville was just too tough. But Hornell was just too tough for Dansville. And I mean, heck, it would have been nice for my cousin to see a banner maybe lifted in the Baker Gymnasium for them. But it wasn't to be. But I mean, there's always next year. But as for my cousin, she's maybe headed to bigger and better things. Good job, Mynderse girls. Now I'm going to talk about Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark is a once-in-a-generational basketball talent. That's what I think of her. And it didn't take an elbow to the face from an Ohio State fan for her to set a record that has stood for 50 years. But you know what? There's a big difference with Caitlin Clark and her father, with Pistol Pete Maravich. The relationship he had with his father, Press, it almost bordered on abuse. The way Press Maravich lived up to his nickname. His name was Pete, too. You gotta wonder why they called him Press. Maybe he pushed too many buttons. Yeah, he definitely pressed a lot of buttons with his son, you know. Pistol Pete lived up to his nickname because Press kept pressing. But I mean, Pistol Pete was a once-in-a-generational basketball talent, and he only played 3 years, because back in the early 70s, there were rules where freshmen couldn't play. You just gotta wonder, had Pistol Pete played in his freshman year, been able to, how many points he could have scored. But I digress. Caitlin Clark, she set the record, breaking Pistol Pete's record. And she's on her way to hopefully a big stardom in the WNBA. But you know what? Congratulations to Caitlin Clark. And you know what? I think Pistol Pete's smiling that you broke his record. Because, I mean, heck, he was a talent. I got to watch him on a CBS when I was like 9, 10 years old. And I saw how smooth and fluid his shots are. And your smooth and fluid technique when you shoot is a lot like Pistol Pete and Stephon Curry. You know what? You're going to do big things, Miss Clark. Keep it up. Congratulations on setting the record. And last but not least, the NFL Combine. The best new talent for the NFL showcasing before the draft late next month. And one of the wide receivers set the fastest time running in a 4.21. You know what? That is superhuman almost. But I mean, I gotta wonder, why is it called the Combine? I don't see any farm equipment. I mean, don't they? Wouldn't it be great if they called it the NFL Tractor, the NFL Reaper? Oh hell, if it was the NFL Reaper, you don't want to see a big guy with a cloak, a skeleton, and a scythe standing there, you know. Welcome to the NFL Reaper. Well, you know what? That would probably be a bit nice series that Marvel would want to do. The NFL Reaper. Heck, Marvel Comics already makes some great movies and some great shows. Wouldn't it be great if they came up with one on the NFL Network? The NFL Reaper. That would be a grim thought. I'm Ken Haas. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.